1 plus 1 still 2, right?
Tallahassee. Sometimes 1 plus 1 does not still equal 2. This is Tim. This is New York Giants Straight Talk, powered by Online Big Blue LLC. You know what? We're getting a lot of DMs and text messages and emails the last couple days about the venerable Evan Neal. And everyone's question seems to be, Tim, can Evan Neal be fixed? Is Evan Neal broken? Well, first of all, that's my first question. I don't know if Evan Neal is broken. So I'm not going to sit there and tell you he can be fixed until I know that he's broken. And honestly, I am not I would not say that I'm an expert on offensive linemen. And I think that anyone that thinks that they are, if you worked in the league and you've been in the league or you're an offensive lineman, you probably have a better understanding of the nuances and the techniques of offensive linemen than some guy on Twitter or some guy on YouTube. So a lot of times what we like to do is we like to go into the trove of information that we sometimes have readily available to us in reference to people that have worked in the league. And there's a former scout who still does freelance work for a couple of organizations who 3 years ago, and it's actually funny because someone sent me this clip. 3 years ago, we did a draft video. And this was right before the draft. And this gentleman talked about Andrew Thomas. So, and I'm going to play the clip because when I think about someone that has accurate information, I think about someone that really knows what they're talking about. I always think of this gentleman, and he gave us some information on Evan Neal. But I want to play this clip that someone actually dug up for me. From a Giant perspective, I think that they will go offensive lineman. And we spoke to a scout not too long ago, former scout, who said that the Giants would be stupid if they passed up on Andrew Thomas. Now, I see a lot of other people and a lot of other sports writers and, pontificating how wonderful all these other offensive linemen are. And, I fall into the same trap because I watch the film. But you know what? I don't watch this film on a daily basis. I don't watch these players on a daily basis. These scouts do. And while this gentleman is no longer employed by the league, he still does freelance work. And he told me repeatedly that he's told other organizations, you pass up on Andrew Thomas, you will be sorry. That he has the strength, he has the power, he has the ability to be the road paver. He has the ability to make sure that no one touches Daniel Jones. He is probably the most pro-ready. Now, and I know there will be some debate with people saying, well, this guy is this and this guy is that. And there's a guy out there that, can really, Willis, he's that guy that from Alabama. You know what? Yeah, I figure he's going to be a top 10 pick. But like I said, to me, you just can't pass up on Thomas. And that was, like I said, that was 3 years ago. So I decided to reach back out to this gentleman, and I haven't talked to him in probably a little over a year. So I was kind of surprised when he texted me back. And I texted him a simple question, and the question was interesting because I just wrote in the text message, is Evan Neal broken? And I did not get a response for a couple hours. And I laugh because I finally did get a response. And the first thing he sent me were things that were good about Evan Neal coming out of the draft and things that he still sees in Evan Neal, that he's a big guy, that he's huge. And he's one of those guys that's just strong. He's back in the old day, we'd call it he's country strong. And he even spoke or texted me briefly about how, Evan Neal could still be that road paver. He could still be overpowering in the running game, and that's what the Giants should be focusing on. That he's a drive blocker. He drives defenders off the ball. He's powerful. He still knows how to finish his blocks extremely well. He plays with, I always love the analogy. He plays with great length. And he's just a massive guy. So when he was sending me all this stuff, I was like, well, you know what? All these things sound great. All these things sound wonderful. And then he started sending me some text messages about some of the things that Evan Neal does not do well, and certain things that he told me that, would be an issue with, that would have been an issue with Evan Neal. Now, this is coming from his draft reports that would have been an issue with Evan Neal going into the pros. And the first thing he said, the first red flag he had was that, he actually sent me a page from his draft report. First thing that he talked about was speed rushers. That Evan Neal was going to be frustrated by speed rushers, that they were going to get around him, that he was not as gifted as an athlete as he should be or needs to be to fill into the left tackle position and even in the right tackle position because of the fact that he just stands up too high. He comes out of his stance, and he pointed this out. He was saying he comes out of his stance too high. And the problem is when you come out of your stance too high, and you go up against a speed rusher, that guy's going to go right around you. And then one of the other things he mentioned when he was watching the film was, he goes, watch his feet. He said, they seem like they get stuck in mud. And he seems like when he tries to go back, he's extremely heavy-footed, especially against the speed rusher. I laugh because I mentioned after Andrew Thomas's first season, I pointed out, and I forget what video it was in. It was in a couple of videos that Andrew Thomas had a little hitch in his step. That when he went back into his pass blocking stance, that first year coming out, I reported it too. I said I kind of thought there was an injury involved because if you watched him between college and in the pros, especially the last couple of games of the season, he had a hitch. He almost had like a giddy up when he was trying to go backwards, and almost like he was trying to compensate for an injury. So what this gentleman's saying is his feet are getting basically stuck in the mud. And he felt that when Evan Neal came out, that he did not have the feet of a left tackle, which is pretty much why the Giants have been so stuck in keeping him in that right tackle position. Also, the fact you have Andrew Thomas. And one of the other problems that he pointed out, and you saw on full display, he has problems redirecting the stunt, especially the inside stunt. He's got we've talked about that. One of the things we've talked about before was the fact that when Andrew Thomas had a lot of his issues, you had Will Hernandez. And we talked about this ad nauseum and we pointed out numerous times that Will Hernandez missed numerous assignments and kind of left Andrew Thomas out to dry. And sometimes Andrew Thomas had to choose whom he was going to block. And sometimes he made the wrong choices. But the problem is, this gentleman was telling me, he just doesn't think that he really understands or really has the idea of just how to redirect that inside stunt. And he kept saying that he's just slow to react. And he goes, this is going back and watching that first year, that he's just slow to react and he kind of lunges a little. And we've seen this before, that he kind of lunges. And when he does that, he misses the block. And one of the other points of contention he said was the fact that he is, like he mentioned before, that he stands up. He's too upright. And then the other thing he mentioned is at times, if you watch him, he leans forward too much, which is not allowing him to get leverage. And he gets basically, just like I said, he gets overrun. So when I'm hearing all this, I'm kind of thinking to myself, well, he's a lost cause. Because that's a lot. That's a lot that, that's just a lot. That was a lot of information. He says if you want to really see how bad Evan Neal can be, he goes, go back and watch. I think it was the Texas A&M game, he said, back in 2020. And he goes, that'll really show you some issues that he has. Now, at the end of the day, I was like, well, you know what? That's why I'm doing this video tonight. I was like, well, okay, well, evidently we're screwed. He just doesn't have the ability. And I basically texted back. So evidently you're telling me all hope is lost. And again, he took forever to text me back. And it was interesting because as he was taking forever to text me back, I texted him back again. I said, well, should we move him to the guard position? And it was funny because he texted back immediately and said, hell no. He goes, basically, for all the problems that he has right now, Evan Neal, these are all things that are coachable. Now, I always jokingly mention that, Bobby Johnson, who I also refer to as Rob Zombie, is the offensive line coach. And, we always say everything's Bobby Johnson's fault. But he does say that some of these things can be coached out of him, or they can work with him to mask some of these issues. Now, like standing up too high, that's something you can work on. Having quicker feet, you may not get quicker feet, but you can have better technique, which will make you seem like your feet are quicker. Now, being a gifted athlete, like I said, that's just something. You either are or you're not. But evidently, like I said, this guy's country strong. And putting him on the right side is probably the best way to go, he mentioned. And like I said, he said a lot of these things can be worked on. So I'm not telling you that Bobby Johnson's not doing his job. I'm not telling you it seems that this is the end for Evan Neal and he's going to be moving. Evan Neal's got a lot of great traits as well as some of the issues that he's having, but he's always going to have a problem with that speed rusher. That's why he's probably never going to be a left tackle. But if he can learn the proper technique, the proper ability to use leverage, if he can figure out how to move his feet correctly, that will help him with the fact that he is not the quickest guy in the world. And he can learn that technique. And like I said, if he doesn't come out of his stance too high and he learns not to lean forward, you still have a guy that is a road paver, who can just be nasty, who could be violent in reference to run blocking. So I kind of keep thinking this over and over again. Why do we why last week did we continuously try to pass? Especially early on when we knew we were going to get beat in reference to the speed rushers. Why didn't we switch our game plan a little bit and move more towards a ground and pound game? Because honestly, that's what our offensive line does well outside of Andrew Thomas, who excels both in the pass blocking and the run blocking. So why not play to the strengths of old Joshua, of old Evan, of JMS? Why not play to their strengths? Why not become a ground and pound team? Yeah, you want to go vertical, but and vertical may be sexy, but what also is even sexier? Winning some games. So I have more faith and hope now that I'm hearing from a professional that a lot of this is coachable. We just have to have faith in Dable. We have to have faith in Bobby Johnson. We have to have faith in Shane. And we kind of got to just see where it goes from there. But at the end of the day, nobody knows. I think Evan Neal will be fine. I think he will figure it out. I think he will turn that corner. Andrew Thomas did not have some awesome games he got better that second year early on, but then the light switch kind of went on. So let's hope the same thing will happen for Evan Neal. Don't forget about the big stream on Sunday with the R0B at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sunday Giant. We'll be preparing everyone for the Arizona Cardinal game. And as always, don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell if you want to know why. So that'd be awesome.